That's right. Welcome in. Welcome back. Happy Friday, everybody. Good Friday it is indeed. We got the Masters going on. The weather seems to possibly be turning a little bit. Welcome in. Welcome back, folks. Happy to be here. Happy to have you here as well. As always, you can find the program on YouTube. Do it. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Appreciate it very much. Give the video a thumbs up. That helps me as well. Notifications on. That way you're alerted every time there's a new episode. You don't want to miss it. Twitter, search bar, Always Irish Rat, Always Irish Chic. Emails, alwaysirishnd@gmail.com. Audio only. Anywhere you want me, you can get me. Call in line 312-900-8815. You tell Johnny all you've heard and seen Fighting Irish Wire. Tune in every day. Fighting Irish Wire. Go there. Read about Notre Dame. Welcome in, everybody. Hello. Thanks for being here. So, here's what we're going to do today. Couple things I wanted to go over. One of them is I want to talk about, this wasn't even on the list, but I added it to the list. We're going to talk a little bit about the offense and some of the reports that it's struggling a little bit in spring ball. So I want to hit that. And then I want to go over one thing with the defense. And then I want to talk about best case, worst case scenarios for this season. And more importantly than like a number, I want to talk about how we're going to get there on the good side and the bad side. So that's a couple things I have planned. We'll go through it quickly. People, if you have calls, I think I fixed the call-in line issue. It was the lightning. I've been testing it since we got off the last show. It was definitely the lightning. I have to plug in, call in a line on my phone that connects to a hardline line, and then that's what connects the thing. And we're getting all sorts of static electrifying me through the phone lines. So I think we're good to go on that. And if we're not, I'll know it right away, and we'll just shut the phone line down, and then I'll go figure it out. So I think we're good to go there. Got a couple calls already. 567-818. You're going to be the first ones up. Hope you have some good Easter plans, a relaxing weekend ahead of you with some golf in your future, all of that. So I'm going to hit the offensive thing real quick. Then I'm going to get to these calls since I have two people. So give me like 3 minutes on this and we're coming to you guys. Good morning, Cousin Luke, Adam Dowling, Angela Rudiger. Always good to have Rudiger here. Domer 88. 88 was a good year for the Domers. I like that. And One Sock. Good morning as well. Oh, Dr. John, what's going on? Oh, man. I know you haven't seen Miss Spring because you're in a blizzard in Montana, Dr. John. That's rough treading for you, my friend. I worry about you out there. Too cold. Get back down to Key West, Dr. John. One time you called me in the winter, you're in Key West. And then the next week, you're in the middle of a blizzard snowdrift. I can't keep track of you. You're always on the run. Eric, good to see you, man. I hope you can escape out of court and hear some of the show. Good to have you guys here. Okay. So before I get to the calls, which I'm going to make a priority, the reports, the offense is struggling a little bit in spring practice. What do you make of that? I genuinely want to know what you make of that. Ranging from, well, what do you mean? I was told Hartman could do everything. He should be able to come in here and make everything work, and it's all easy, and everything just flows. Are you with that? Or are you saying, taking a more tempered approach, going, realistically, look at all the changes in personnel, staff, and everything else, roster, with the offense. Look at all those changes. And then say, it shouldn't surprise me that they're having trouble finding a little rhythm in the spring, right? Or everything just doesn't look all on full tilt, like whatever. Yeah, Dr. John says define struggle. So yeah, I mean, I guess that depends on the writers that are saying, saw the practice and say they're struggling. So I don't know how much of that is just trying to integrate new things, get on the same page. Maybe they're also trying some new things to see if they'll stick and they're not working. Like, I don't know. But I think the big takeaway is, Burt Reynolds, I think you're right. I think the big takeaway here should be, this is what spring's for. is to do all this so that when you get to fall camp in August, you got it all figured out. So, and then you could, I guess what I'm saying is do this now, take note of the struggles so that you have between the dead period of after blue and gold up until we reconvene in August to be able to know, all right, here's where we are struggling a little bit. Either we're going to scrap that, or when we get back in August, we need to focus on that to get it better, like whatever. So, yeah, I'd rather hear the offense looks great. You're going to score 50 points a game and there's no incompletions and everything's in rhythm and perfect timing. Even for somebody like me who wants that, I think I realize that's unrealistic. To expect. So the next best thing is, I guess you say, go for it. Like literally go for it. Do whatever you want to do. Test the boundaries of what you want to do. Go even further. Try all this different stuff out. And then at least you know in the dead slow period exactly where you're at. You know exactly then where you're at when you reconvene in August. What needs more attention? What needs to change? What we need to just scrap because it ain't working. So even me, who's strung really tight and wants these good reports to sleep better at night, I'm kind of realizing this is what spring's for. It's what spring's for. And you don't know the details. I don't know the details of what they looked not that great at. I don't know. So I think this is just kind of a part of the process. And then I saw somebody say Parker sucks. It's his, something like, it's Parker and that's why it's not working. Like, dude, I have an honest question. It's not like Parker's coming from the outside. How much can you mess up? Like, I'm genuinely asking. The guy was right there. He knows everything we were already running. Like, how bad could you mess that up? You could default to try and do what he knows we ran last year and make it look decent. That's my question. Like, I already see people like, oh, Parker doesn't have it. Dude, how much can you mess this up? It's not like he's coming in from the outside with some like schematic idea none of us have ever heard of. And then he's trying to like mismatch some offense he wants to run, and we don't have the personnel, or it's just like bizarro world. So like on a practical level, I genuinely do wonder how much you can mess that up. It's just, I don't know, man. I don't know, but I am not going to freak out over a report that the spring offense doesn't look that polished. A lot of that should be expected. And so I don't like it. I'd rather hear reports that everything's out of schedule and perfect, but I just don't know how realistic that is in the spot Notre Dame is at this given time. I don't know that. And it's going to be rough if you don't get a lot out of this offense with Parker driving it. That's going to be rough because then where do you go from there? But I'm sorry when I say you got to almost try to mess up the good running game Notre Dame had. How can you screw that up? Like, I don't know, man. But if the offense isn't a lot better than last year, something got messed up right away. Like, if the offense isn't significantly better, something has gone horribly, horribly wrong. Horribly wrong. So I'm not going to freak out over it, even though all I do is usually freak out over all this stuff. I just can't on this one. I can't. It's a small window looking in the practice session. Who knows what they were doing and what was, I don't know, the personnel and all that. I don't know. But this is what spring is for. It's what spring is for. Figure it all out now. So you have what you feel pretty good about. And then you have all of the summer to think about whatever's left. That's what I like. You have all the rest of the summer to think about. Here's what didn't look right when we reconvene. What could we do? Okay? Look at this. Eric coming through again with a $20 holler on Masters Friday. Good Friday. There's no possible way ND goes worse than 9-3. ND will have the best QB 11 out of 12 games. Should be right. You should be right. And even at 9-3, I mean, think about what a 9-3, 5, 6, 7. I'm coming to you, 8-1-8 after that. Think about a 9-3 Notre Dame record. Mike, you guys are funny, man. Eric's driving away from the courthouse. That's beautiful. Hope he doesn't get in a wreck. Get out of there and enjoy your weekend, man. If you look at 9-3, here's what you're looking, when my mind says 9-3, what are the three? That's what I start thinking about. What are the three? If you're looking at a 9-3, does that mean Notre Dame loses all of the big three, which we would be mad at? And on the flip end, if that happened, you went 9-3 and you lose the big three, okay, then that's bad because you lost to the three best teams you're playing in the biggest games of the year. But it would be good on one hand, because if you go 9-3 and lose the big three, that means you're winning all the games against the teams you should beat no matter what because of the roster and talent differences. So that 9-3 is interesting to me because you're going to be mad and I'm going to be mad if you drop all the big three. That's going to seem like you're not progressing. When you had one out of the three wins against the good big three last year, you can't go back to 9-3. On the good end, that means you're not losing any Marshalls and any Stanfords, and that means that you kind of figured that bugaboo out from last year. The no-shows against teams you're 3-score favorites over. So that would mean you're taking care of that problem, but then you're not winning any of the big ones. So then if you win one of the big ones, then that means you're dropping one of those other dumb games to get to 9-3, and people are going to be mad about that. So I don't know which way it's going to go, folks. I don't know, but that's 9-3. I'm still saying the bar for Notre Dame people to not lose their minds this year is 10-2 or better. It just is. It just is. 8-4 last year think about 8-4 last year with all of the personnel issues in the quarterback room, the wide receiver room, all that. And you went 8-4, 9-3 with a way better increase in offensive talent. 9-3, that ain't going to cut. That does not feel like enough improvement for how much better the key areas are going to be that held us back last year. You did 8-4 with all those personnel issues and a quarterback that was struggling and all that, and 2 wide receivers for half the time and all that. And you went 8-4 with that. 9-3 isn't that big of an improvement, especially with a similar schedule to look at. So I don't know. So that's risky. Let's get to the phones and then I'll go back to some of my notes. 567. Good morning.
Johnny boy, good morning.
What's up? Okay, the phones are crystal clear. We're back in action here. Great. That's great news. What's on your mind, my friend? Good. Happy Friday to you on Masters Friday as well.
Happy Friday to you, my friend. All right, so what's on my mind today? I'm going to keep this short and sweet.
Okay.
I just texted your little thread there. My number one objective for spring ball, summer, right now on YouTube, whenever I do any Notre Dame searching whatsoever, I'm just going to be commenting on everything. I'm trying to advocate to turn that stadium green on September 23rd. We cannot let the Buckeyes take over the House of Rocky built. That's my number one objective. I'm asking for your help, friend.
There you go.
We need to let all Irish Nation know that we need to get out there and create a true home field advantage for those boys.
Can I tell you something that's been in my mind, man? Man, so many of you callers, you're in my brain because a lot of you hit on things that I spend time sitting up and worrying about. This has been rolling through my mind. Let me throw it at you. It sounds like you'll know your history. Notre Dame has a bad reputation of teams wearing red coming in that place and taking over. Nebraska, Georgia, Cincinnati, red. Too much red. Why is it always red?
John, you know what sits in my mind? I've lived through Nebraska.
Too much red.
I've lived through Georgia. I was at the Cincinnati game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give me your insight.
Oh my gosh. For Georgia and Nebraska, I still hate it. That's one thing. But when you let Cincinnati come in there and turn your stadium red, I mean, come on. And Ohio State, you know how those fans are.
Yep.
They're gonna, if we let them, they're gonna take over
Yep.
that stadium.
Yep. And you know what it is? And you know what else?
We have to stop it.
On a practical level, all you got to do is hop on that toll road and head right over. That's an easy ride. Like, those people are going to do it just like Cincinnati did if you let them. But who?
Exactly.
All right, let me ask this. Man, I've been thinking about this a lot. Let me ask this. I feel like let me ask you this, since you've thought about this. If Notre Dame fans that have season tickets or people that have a bunch and they're going to sell them or whatever, if they're going to do that, what is the time period most of that action happens? Is it before the season or is it in the season, with this game being like the 5th game? That's my question, because where I'm going with that is, if you're going to have a certain percentage selling them and then the red people are going to get them like in August or something, there's not much you could do about that. But my theory is, if Notre Dame is undefeated going into Ohio State, not that many people are going to sell them. But if you lose to NC State or something, then I could see people being like, nope, this isn't going to be the year for that, and then unloading them. When does that sale happen between the Notre Dame people and the Ohio State people is my question. When's that action?
It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. A lot of times it just seems like Notre Dame's in a special spot. I get it. I've talked to you before about this, and you brought up a good point that our fan base is unique to any other fan base in college football, to where we are all over the country.
Yep.
And for Notre Dame fans, a lot of us, to come to a game, it's like going to Disneyland almost.
Yep.
You have to travel from California to Indiana, and you have to schedule a year in advance to make a weekend thing out of it, right? So that's very unique. So in that regard, if I don't know exactly when they are selling these tickets to opposing teams, but if Notre Dame's going into that September 23rd matchup where they're pulling the green jerseys out and they're 3-0, Notre Dame's trying. I'm with you on the green jersey thing, by the way. I would have loved for them to come out in warm-ups in the blues.
Yep.
And have them greens
maximum
waiting for them in the
impact.
locker room. Oh my gosh!
Maximum impact.
That would have been Marcus Freeman putting all his chips on the table.
Yeah, that would have been max impact.
I would have loved that statement.
Yep, and it would have been a statement to the players. It would have been a surprise. That would have been, that's what I wanted. But the times are too modern for that. I'm an old guy.
But to answer your question, I really don't know when these people are going to sell their tickets, if they're going to sell their tickets. I think a lot of people are optimistic about this year, especially with Hartman coming in the offense. I'm also with you on the D-line and the back end of the defense. Those are the two question marks for me, especially safety.
Yeah.
I think the D tackle, I think we're going to be all right on the outside of the defensive line. The inside is what scares me and everybody trying to run the ball down our throat.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
But as far as them selling their tickets, if Notre Dame's 3-0, they have no reason selling their tickets. I hope they hold on to them, see how they do against North Carolina State, because if we beat North Carolina State, I know we lost to Marshall last year. That's a fluky thing. I don't think we're going to lose to Central Michigan or Tennessee State. As long as we take care of business against North Carolina State.
Yeah. That should be their first
we're
kind of test.
We're going into that game 3-0 and get your asses in the game and make some noise.
Yeah, you'll be 4-0.
Home field advantage.
You'll be
sick of it.
You'd be 4-0 going in there. They'll probably be undefeated. So you're going to look at that. Game day is going to be there for sure. You're going to have good weather because that time in September is nice every night. Like, everything lines up for it to be perfect. Both teams need to be undefeated to make it.
What more could you ask for?
Yeah,
as a Notre Dame fan,
yeah.
What more would you want?
That's it.
I mean.
That's everything. That's everything. And you know what else I like about it that's unique? It would be different if it was LSU or, I don't know, anybody else from around the country. But having it be the northern power, the northern recent power, Ohio State, like, that matters too. A lot of Notre Dame fans have animosity, haven't beat Ohio State in a very long time. People are mad about 96. John Cooper still, like all of that. Can I bring up something about Georgia in 2017? I'm going to defend our fan base for a second on this theory. Here's my theory. I understand why so many Notre Dame fans sold their tickets to Georgia people for the 2017 game. And the reason I understand it is I believe that was the first or second game of the year in 2017, coming off of the burned out nightmare that was 2016. I think a lot of Notre Dame fans were so jaded from what happened in 2016. They said, you want me to spend this money to go watch Georgia come in here and roll us after you went 4-8? I'm not doing it. I honestly think a lot of people were like, nope, I'll come back when you prove you're worth it. I think that's why a lot of people sold them that year. And I understand that logic coming off that nightmare season. I think that's why that one happened.
I understand where you're coming from with that, but if you want to take that route with 2016, I mean, Notre Dame's kind of been jaded the past 30 years, haven't they?
Yeah, it's a fair point. It's a fair point.
I mean, I know 2015 was the worst of it, but I mean, we're losing games to Duke and Tulsa, and I mean, the Weiss era, the Willingham era, ever since Lou.
All right.
Things
Now, wait.
go well with Davey.
Let me ask you this one. You have a fair point. Cincinnati, here, I got a theory on how that happened with Cincinnati, too. Here's my theory on that. If you look back at that year, would have been Kelly's last year. When you look, USC was still down. When you look at that schedule, Cincinnati was the biggest, ended up being the highest ranked, biggest game on the schedule. However, I think a lot of Notre Dame fans looked at Cincinnati as not a big enough name to travel across country and do all that, like you were saying, because it's not USC or Ohio State or Clemson. I got a feeling some of that happened where it's like, oh, it's only Cincinnati. Don't worry about it. I think there was some of that in that one, and look where it got you. Beat.
I disagree with that because for me, when the tickets come out, say, out of the general public in July or whenever it is, over the summertime, I look at the schedule, and I don't think the majority of college football fans really. I don't know if they knew Cincinnati was going to be good there, but that's the game I circled because I thought to myself, I don't know who else, what the big games were that year. USC and all them other big games, they always sell first, or they're always the most expensive games to go to.
Yeah.
So I circled the Cincinnati game because I knew, that game was affordable, and I thought that was going to be a top 15 team at least coming into Notre Dame Stadium.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a way to get into Notre Dame Stadium and see a top 15 matchup. Two teams in the top 15 go up against each other.
Yeah.
If you're a college football fan, you had to know that going into that season.
But also look at it from the Cincinnati end, man. Like, that's their Super Bowl, man. That's their trip to the Mecca. Like, it's Cincinnati coming to Notre Dame. It's right down the road pretty much. Like, it makes sense to me that they showed up. I'm just mad at Kelly. He couldn't win it when your toughest game of the year is Cincinnati at home. I would think you should be able to win it if you're Notre Dame, but what do I know?
I'm just sick of it, John. I mean, what always sits in the back of my head is, I know you watch a Georgia game. When Brandon Wimbush gets strip sacked at the end of the game, the roar of that crowd gives me nightmares.
Yeah. It
was like a Georgia home game.
Yeah, and that's embarrassing, man. That just hurts. It's a bad look, and that red really shines. Like, you see it in that stadium, the red. I will say this. I was there for Clemson last year. There were little pockets at Clemson, but there was not a takeover by any means. There was little pockets.
I would be happy if we get a turnout like the Clemson game for the Ohio State. It was still a little bit too much orange in the stadium for me, but I would be happy for a turnout like that on September 23rd.
Yeah, I honestly, I was expecting to see more orange, and I don't know if it's because orange sticks out, but all weekend when I was like walking around on Eddy Street, going to get something to eat or drink or whatever, I was thinking there's a lot of orange around me, but when I got in the stadium, I'll be honest, it was not overwhelming, and I was happy about that. And the other thing I liked was they were silent all night because they never had one thing to cheer about. It was gorgeous. And then they all left early, and it was a sea of orange walking down one after the next. It was one of the most beautiful sights these eyes have seen in Notre Dame land in a long time, seeing them silently with their heads down, marching out of our place. That's what it should be like at home.
I'm so jealous that you got to go to that game. I was on the verge of going. Me and my dad always go to the games. If he wouldn't have been sick that weekend, we would have been there, and it would have been a good one to go to.
Yeah, it felt a little different. And it was needed. It was needed. That team was teetering on the edge of falling into the abyss last year, and they managed to pull themselves out. And you know what? I'm glad Clemson was struggling. I'm not going to act like they were world beaters last year. They were undefeated when we played them, but they were leaking oil, begging to be beat. I just wasn't sure we could do it and do it a little bit convincingly. So, but I don't know, man. You have a good point, and it's going to be very upsetting. But those Ohio State people, they want to travel, and they do not like us. Those people are going to spend money to stick it to us because they do not like us, and I don't like them.
That's the worst fan base in college football. I don't know if you know this by my area code here, but I live in Ohio. I live in the Toledo area, and they are god awful. It's the worst fan base in all of football.
Worse than
football,
Michigan? Worse than Michigan,
football.
or are you just stuck closer to the Ohio State people?
Terrible. I hate Ohio State more than I hate Michigan.
Oh man,
terrible. It goes USC. I hate USC obviously the most. Then it's Ohio State.
Yeah.
Then Michigan.
Yeah.
I can't stand them.
The other reason the Ohio State game is just such a big deal is it's the first of the big three. The outcome of that game is going to dictate the trajectory for both of these teams. It's just such a big pivot point in that second year.
And in the USC game, those all them Hollywood glamour people, all the celebrities, they don't care. They don't care.
Yeah.
Like we care.
They're there to be seen.
We're Midwest blue collar.
Yeah.
They don't care. They're out there surfing and at all these Hollywood parties. They never show up to Notre Dame Stadium. So I'm not worried about us showing up to that game because we're going to show up.
Yeah.
We'll show up for USC.
And when they do, and when they do show up,
and let's paint the house at Rocky Belt green.
When the USC people do show up on every other year where we host them, I always love being in the parking lot. It's like 62 degrees and I'm in my polo and jeans or whatever, and they're bundled up. They got their winter gloves going and their scarves. It's like 63 degrees in Indiana and they're in October and they're freezing. I'm like, why even come then if you're that miserable? Stay in Hollywood. Why even come here on your little private jet? Stay out there.
I can't wait for redemption against these guys.
Well, you need it.
The whole Caleb Williams FND last year on the fingernails. Oh my God!
See, let me ask you.
I can't believe that we let them do us like that last year.
Now you sound like me. I don't understand how
Utah.
Come on.
Utah beat them a week
twice
after we played them, and it was the recipe that I thought we were going to look like Utah.
Yeah. No, Utah
against them.
Utah played. That's what's bothering me. Utah played the game we needed to play against them exactly 2 times last year. Not once, 2 times. They played the exact format of the game we needed to play against them.
We let a kid that had FND on his fingernails, painted on his fingernails, do that to us.
Yep.
How do we do that?
I don't know. Well, you know what I hear when I go on this rant? When I go on this rant and say, how can you let that happen and hand the guy the Heisman and a playoff ticket almost on a silver platter in a Hollywood, giving them the full movie script? When I say
your biggest rival.
I know. It bothers me.
In the first year head coach's year.
When I say that, here's what I get back. John, they weren't calling a holding. What did you want Notre Dame to do? That's what I was told.
They weren't what? Calling holding?
Yeah, that's what I'm told is if they were calling holding, we would have got there and it would have been different. I don't see it. They out physicaled us. They were running the ball on us for 6 yards up the gut on first down. Give me a break.
I wish Notre Dame would let me talk to that team sometimes because I would have no problem motivating them guys.
I know. I've said forever that should be my job. Let me be a hype man. I don't need to coach nothing. My job is to get in these guys' brains and punch the right buttons and get everybody in the mindset they need to be in to go take care of business. It'd be my dream job. I don't need to coach nothing. Let me talk to these people and get them jacked up. So I don't know, man.
Remember the Titans moment. I don't want them to gain another inch.
Can I ask this? Can I ask this? Caleb Williams will not have the balls to do that at our place, Willie. Was that just a home thing or does that not matter? If you did it last year and won the Heisman on us, I wouldn't be surprised if the guy painted his nails at our home doing it again. What do you think of that?
I would be super surprised if he does that again, because I mean that shines on Lincoln Riley too. Like, Lincoln Riley knew that was going on, and he let that happen 2 weeks in a row because he did the same thing with Utah.
Yeah.
If he does it again and Notre Dame lets him play like he did last year, something needs to change.
Now, you know what I think there should be? If he shows up there with a little F Notre Dame again at our place, I think you need to have a little Miami scuffle in the tunnel. You want to do it at your place? I don't like it, but at least it's your place. You're going to do it at our place? No.
Save Lincoln Riley's ass for me. That's right.
Whatever, but you got to get on the right side of this and average it out 1-to-1. I love Freeman, but 0-2 is a rough start. No matter how much I like you personally, I'm going to have a problem with any Notre Dame coach starting out 0-2 against USC. I am.
I hear you, and I'm on the same page as you when it comes to Freeman. Like, I'm giving him a pass for last year, because I mean, the guy did good things. Like, what more can you ask for the guy? Like, Cousin Luke and Newt Rockney or whatever these guys are. I think they're the same person, by the way.
Me too. I think they log out, log back in.
Give them guys the time of day. They're just trolling you, dude.
Yeah, I know. Some of it's good for business, though. Like, it's good to have like some oil in the mix here, and people are going at them. And every once in a while, they do say something I kind of agree with. It's just the framing is made to make me very upset.
Yeah, Cousin Luke did say something, I think yesterday or the day before on your show that I agreed with a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, the reason why I called in, John, is if you could please, I know you're an advocate for Notre Dame. Preach, if you could, get out there and support them boys on September 23rd. Let's green out that stadium.
Dude, everything Notre Dame fans think about and dream about could be that game. It doesn't get any bigger or better. That's everything Notre Dame could want. The game of the week against a Northern Power brand name. Game day is going to be there. The weather will be good. It all lines up to be a big weekend already.
Do me that favor, brother. Preach it.
Gotcha. Gotta wear.
Keep on them. Keep on Irish Nation. Get them out. Try to get them out there.
Gotta wear that green, baby. Thanks for the call. Love your energy today, and a crystal clear phone line. Good job, my friend. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too, Johnny boy.
See ya. Oh, I love that guy's energy. That is beautiful. The refs did help USC. Oh, I understand it. Rodney, I got you. 818. It felt like the whole world was going against us, and it was predetermined that guy was going to win the Heisman, and they wanted USC to usher in the playoff, but they made a misstep at the very end. That's what it felt like to me. I don't know what it felt like to you guys, but it did kind of feel like it was just determinism, where it was like, it doesn't matter what we're going to do. They're going to make it so this guy wins. Holding on some of those pass plays where he's running around is one thing, but there were way too many times where they lined up and ran the ball for 6.5 yards on first down right up the middle. That's a problem. They were out physicaling us. There was a bunch of those drives where they'd start first down and get 6 on the ground. You're dead against Williams if he only has – I don't even want to get all mad about it again. I don't. Oh, let's see. All right, here we go. Pat coming back. I don't give people who are making millions passes. I understand the dynamics, but now results better be there. Yeah, it's yes and no. Like, yes and no. I don't give people who are making millions passes. I get that. But it's like, what did you want Freeman to do when he got the head job about all the years of awful recruiting and development in the quarterback room and the wide receiver room right away? Like, on the surface, I can't argue with, I don't give people who are making millions passes win the games. I agree with that. So much of me agrees with that. But also the details do matter. Freeman inherited a very, very flawed, non-elite competitive roster last year. He just did. He did. Non-competitive roster in some very important spots the guy inherited. So I agree with this, but I also think some of those details do matter. Now, if you want to say, I'm more open to this. If you wanted to say, well, that was your year one. Like I'm way more open to that if you were like, I don't like some of what I saw last year. Marshall and Stanford, obviously, USC, whatever. But like I get it because all the moving parts in the roster. But now that we are starting to recruit wide receiver better, that group has more depth. Now we expect things to get back. You have a quarterback room that looks kind of healthy now. If CJ comes in, that's in a better spot. I think that's totally reasonable, like from here on out. And I've been saying any of that leeway Freeman had year one, you don't have that in year one or year two. You don't. And you shouldn't. And you shouldn't. And then when you go from year two to year three, there should be less leeway. Like that's the way it goes. You're no longer a new guy. You're no longer learning. You are no longer strapped by the talent or not talent brought in by the previous staff. Like there's a lot of pieces to that. But year two, it's perfectly fair to expect a lot more. And it's a very tough schedule. It is. Talking about some of this, by the way, I joined Mark Rogers yesterday. Mark Rogers TV, Mikey Poles, good to see you. Oh, Carrie, I'm reading this. I was on with Mark Rogers yesterday talking Notre Dame. Always good. Mark Rogers TV, the college football guy who does all across the country. Go look at it, and I'll link the video. I joined him for like a half hour and just kind of let it rip on a bunch of topics since it's been a while since I joined with him. You might find it entertaining. It's just kind of different. Somebody asking me the questions and how I handle it. Look at this name. I can't even on a Friday morning. I look at the name. This is, I like the endorsement and the name. Carrie D. Snuts says this is the best Notre Dame streamer on YouTube. Forget the rest. Go Irish. Carrie D. Snuts. Thank you for being here, Carrie. Oh my God, that's funny. $4.99. That's a $5 holler. Been a while, John. Go Irish. Yeah, prime time. I'm glad to have you back. As a young ND fan, would my first game experience be better in the fall or catch a spring game and see the campus in bloom? Okay, your first game experience. I mean, I wouldn't count going to the blue and gold as your first game experience. Here's what I would do. Go for blue and gold, understanding you're not feeling the vibe of a fall Saturday with a lot on the line and all that rumble on the ground. You feel that energy there. I would go for blue and gold more to be able to see campus in peace without 100,000 people and all that. That's what I would use blue and gold for, to do all the sightseeing stuff, go in the bookstore, go see everything, get into the grotto, go into the cathedral, do all that. That's what the blue and gold trip is for. Enjoy Notre Dame Stadium. If you haven't been there before, take some time to look at it. And that's what I would use blue and gold for. More as a sightseeing tour, but I wouldn't count that as anything like what it would be on a game weekend with all that energy. So you're not going there to look for that on blue and gold. And then even with that, then it would depend what game you come for in the fall. Like, no offense, but if you come for Central Michigan, it is going to be the vibe of Ohio State. So it's going to be totally different. All right, timeout, nose blow, timeout. Spring's getting me. Allergies. Oh, got it. All better. Thank you. So, as a young Irish fan, that's what I'd do. I'd make two of these trips, but with different things in mind. You can't go there for the blue and gold and expect that real game day vibe. You can't, no offense, but you can't even go to a Notre Dame home game against one of the lower level teams that feel the home game vibe. Like, I'm sorry, Central Michigan ain't going to have any juice, especially because Ohio State's coming the next week. There ain't going to be any juice for that. 818. Let's see if I can hear you today.
Hey, by the way,
Crystal clear. It wasn't your fault, man. Last time it was my lightning problem. You're crystal clear today. Good job.
Yeah, you had me nervous. I was like, oh man, I'm going to be the one that doesn't sound good, and it's going to be everybody's going to hear that too.
Wasn't your fault. I'll take the blame.
Okay, good, fair enough. I'll give you this one. There is no golf in my future. Just so you know.
Okay, that's fine. It's not for everybody.
It's like watching paint dry. Not watching. Actually, I can watch it and actually get something out of it. I will say that. I just can't stand playing it, John. It was all those blisters I got that first time I went out. I was like, this sucks. And all I could do was hit ground balls.
Yeah.
You know what? I felt better about it, though. When I was listening. It was awesome. I saw an interview with Kobe Bryant a few days ago. One of the last ones he had with Patrick Bet-David.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he had the same issue. He said, man, I can't. He said, I tried playing golf, and he said, all I did was hit ground balls. I'm like, oh, my God, that's actually one athletic thing I have in common with Kobe.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, a guy with that hand-eye coordination. But you know what happens? The taller you are, the harder it is to have a tight golf swing because there's just more things that can move and get loose. So a lot of tall guys struggle with the control of that. But yeah, I just love the Masters.
I was a baseball player too, so my swing was completely
and that'll mess up too. That'll mess you up switching from a baseball swing to a golf swing. That messed me up every year in school when I played both. Crisscrossing those would mess me up. All right.
And that's the crazy part, John, because I got blisters. I had like 5 blisters. I'm like, how is this possible? I hold a baseball bat all the time. But I guess it's just a different way of doing it. Enough about golf.
Yeah, it's a different whole different ball game. All right. What's on your mind, my friend? Are you concerned at all hearing the offense looked a little rough? I don't think I am, and I'm usually concerned about everything. I think some of that should be expected. I would almost go as far as to say, I'll go this far. If I get reports everything was perfect in practice and always looked great, I would almost look negatively on that and say you're not pushing it hard enough then. If everything's that easy and smooth, it tells me you might not be pushing this as far as it needs to go to test your limit of where you're at. Am I off?
Not at all. That's exactly what I was thinking when it was brought up. First of all, let's put this in perspective. The 1985 Bears were 1-3 in the preseason.
Yeah.
Preseason have bad records and then either win a Super Bowl or go on a playoff run, or the opposite. Teams that were, Super Bowl winners had bad preseasons. You know why that is? Because you push the things you need to work on in the offseason. If Notre Dame had been moving the ball, you're absolutely right, man. If the offense was winning every battle, I'd be tremendously worried about our defense because usually, as we talked about, the defense usually has the advantage. I guess it depends. It depends on the experience level on each side of the ball. But I would expect that, first of all, new offensive coordinator, new offensive line coach, new quarterbacks coach. You're going to have a different chemistry you got to deal with. You got to get all those kinks worked out, so just the day-to-day, the operation, if you will. And then you're probably going to be, you can run the football. You got the best four-headed monster in college football going into the year. I mean, I don't think there's any question about that. Maybe in the past 5 years, and maybe further than that. I mean, you got a running back crew. I cannot wait to see these guys, but it wouldn't be to their benefit to just run the ball up and down the field. You're going to be able to do that. Now, here's the other thing I will say. We did lose one of the best offensive line coaches in the history of college football. While I do have good feelings about Rudolph, that's a transition. This is why those 4 games leading up to Ohio State are so important.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, all right, but let me give you a flip side perspective on that. I've thought of this. It scares me how much in my mind a lot of the people who call here are. We're all on the same track. Let me flip this on you. Thinking about it that way, man, what if I said to you, could you argue this may be a year where you might be better off playing Ohio State right out of the gate at your place when they have a new quarterback and it'd be his first game at your place at night? Is that a better dynamic for Notre Dame this year, the way Ohio State had it last year? new Notre Dame quarterback, younger guy, not sure what you're going to get, loud environment at their place, drinking all day and all that. Could you argue that that might benefit us more this year? Because if we're playing them fifth game, it gives that new guy 4 games for Ohio State to iron out all the rookie wrinkles. Does that make any sense?
I actually, and I didn't really think this through until you just mentioned it. If it was the same offensive staff from last year, 100%, no question.
That's a good answer. Damn it, that's a good answer. I like this. Yeah, that's a good answer. Yeah.
Although I will say it might be better to play them like maybe in week 3, though. I will say that maybe week 5, but whatever. I'm not gonna.
But you do have a good. You bring up a really good point though. With that new offense, it is helpful to have a couple beatable opponents where you could work all that out, figure out some of your bread and butter, what might work, what doesn't. Depending on that, hold some things in your back pocket, preparing for Ohio State. I think you have a very good point there. And hopefully, Navy's defense should allow you to kind of work on a lot of things you want to work on, hopefully, and have them look decent. I would hope. If not, it's going to be a rough 9 a.m. Monday morning game for me, or 9 a.m. Saturday for me when that game starts first thing in the morning.
Kidding. Yeah, man. And moving on to the schedule itself and the 10-2. Well, if you want to go there, we can talk about something else before we get to that. Because there was like 3 things you wanted to go through.
Hey, wherever you want to go. Go whatever's on your mind. Let's go with it before we both lose it in our minds.
Yeah, I want to fast forward real quick to the USC game because I think it's an interesting thing that's brought up. That last caller, he's called before. Good caller, by the way, really good caller. It's funny, John. You missed the golden opportunity though. I kept wanting you to say, ask him. What game does he want more, Ohio State or USC? Because he laid out the reasons why he hates Ohio State.
Yeah.
And then talked about how, USC still is his biggest rival, but is it this year? I'm really curious which game, if he had to pick, which one would he take? My guess is
it's tricky because he lives. It's tricky though because he lives in Ohio. Like there's a personal touch. Every bar that guy goes to is probably a Buckeye red everywhere. Like the guy's trapped in Ohio.
That's why I'm so fascinated to know which game, if he had to take a win, but it had to take a loss for another one, which one would he pick and which one would he take as a loss?
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's going to be the Ohio State one for that reason. And again, going back to the legacy of 5 years or five games in our lifetime and they haven't won, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But the FUS or the F Notre Dame and all that, the F Utah thing, the Caleb Williams stuff. Here's the thing, though, John. I thought this through a lot, too. I think if Notre Dame and Utah would have flipped the games that when they were on the schedule, I think Notre Dame would have probably ended up winning that one. Because, remember, USC played UCLA right before they played Notre Dame. Then they played Notre Dame. By that time, they were probably beat up physically. Even though Notre Dame didn't move the ball, they still were making it tough. They still had to bring out everything they had against NG. And then Utah was there to once again sort of, live off that grind that USC had to go through. And I think that had a lot to do with why they beat them the second time in a row. And I can give it credit; they did it, no question. But I think where games come on the schedule is so important. And I think we overlook that. We just look at wins and losses, but. I will be honest with you, John. I'm looking through the schedule, and even though I said 9-3, I say 10-3 because I think we're going to get a bowl victory. But I can't find that third loss. I'll be honest. I'll be with you on that. Even though I think they're going to have it, because I just feel like it's going to happen. I feel like we're going to improve, but we just never seem to get exactly what we want when we want it. So I feel like just from that perspective, we're probably going to be 10-3, not 9 or not 10, not 11.
It's so funny though, but the way we think, you're like, I don't see that third loss. Yeah, I didn't see Marshall and Stanford coming either.
And I was just going to say,
I didn't see them. I don't want to see them, and I don't want them to appear. They're like bad ghosts. I don't want them to appear. I didn't see that at all either. It was just a total shutdown, checkout, no-show deal, and it all has to be over. Freeman can't, for as hard or as
what did occur to me,
can't have them anymore.
what did occur to me though, when I'm looking at it, the one that I think actually now, I think, I got a bad feeling about Clemson. I just think that's going to be a tough game to win with the revenge factor. They were embarrassed by us last year, and Clemson is a tough place to play, man. Even though we're good on the road, and I think we're going to give it all we got. I could see that being one of those classic games. I feel like Clemson pulls that one out. But I do believe we beat Ohio State. I just got a really good feeling about this year. But I will say this, man. I think just like the Clemson game, the crowd kind of set the tone for that one. We're going to know by game time, is this sea of green? Is it kind of 50-50?
Yeah.
Are we washed out by the red? And that's going to tell me a lot. I don't think it will. I think it will be a sea of green this time, or at least, like you said, probably like Clemson. It'll be overwhelmed. It won't be like overwhelming, but it'll be clearly a Notre Dame crowd, and that's what I'm hoping for. The game that I'm worried about is Louisville because of where it comes. It comes to I'm not, but I was just looking at it.
Yeah, no, so I got it right here. So you're going to have Ohio State at home, and whether you win or lose, that is going to be an emotional and physical toll, whether Notre Dame wins or loses. Then you go away to our old friend Mike Elko and Duke, and that coming after Ohio State, that could be a challenge going there. They're on the rise. We all respect Elko, obviously. Then you go to that night blackout game at Louisville. You know damn well that game isn't going to be an 11 o'clock start in Kentucky. That's going to be the night game, the blackout they do. Those people like to drink. They're going to have that tiny stadium rocking if Notre Dame allows them to.
And it's also the seventh game of straight. You know what I mean? So I can see, look, let's say we beat Ohio State. Yes, Duke will be tough, but I feel like we're going to know we can't, play down that week, because it just came after the Ohio State game. But then once you get to Louisville, how much more energy do you have left to keep that up? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So that's why that one worries me.
Yeah, I have that circle too. I have that. See, but here's what's so interesting about that. I have that circled as a concern game as well. And it's funny to me because you and I's reasoning for it are kind of like ancillary from like, I am worried Louisville's players are that much better than Notre Dame. Like, that's not my argument. It's a situational argument of where the game's placed in the schedule, where the game is physically, how I know they want to be. Louisville isn't the profile of Ohio State. Like, it's all that stuff. It's not that I'm worried Louisville has these awesome players. It's all the other circumstance that goes into it. And you got to get up every week, up enough to not lose.
Exactly. And, going back to what, us losing to Cincinnati, in a lot of ways, I sort of get it. It's like, just like you were saying how Clemson, was showing, they were undefeated, but they were showing chinks in their armor all year. Everybody knew that. Well, what about Notre Dame the year before? I mean, we were undefeated going into that game too. And did we look like an undefeated? Did we look like that we were, honestly, did we look like a top 3 or 4 team in the country last year? Or 2 years ago? Granted, we finished number 5 before the Fiesta Bowl game. And I think that was probably appropriate going by what the other teams that were rated that year. But that was a year where, the top of college football was great, but then there was a lot of just really good teams underneath.
Yeah.
That.
And the other issue was Notre Dame ended up with the one loss, but because the schedule was not that great that year, not our fault, but other teams weren't that good. We didn't really have quality wins to pull from or anything. The USC was still down. Like Cincinnati was the one you couldn't lose, and you lost it at home, and it's very upsetting. It's disturbing. So I don't know.
11-1 this year will be in the playoffs. There's no question in my mind. For 11-1, we'll be in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, well, that schedule is that schedule. Nobody can really debate the schedule with those big 3 on there. And let me ask you this. I know it's the last of the big 3. I do expect Clemson to be improved. They had offensive problems and they looked really messed up and out of sync and had nothing going. I do expect them to get that operation back on track. And I'm expecting a better Clemson offense. And Death Valley's not going to be an easy place to play either.
Death Valley is one of the toughest places to play college football. And especially because Notre Dame's coming to town. I mean, I remember that last time they played in that in that torrential downpour in 2015, and it was a hell of a game. That we were down 21-3, and then we came back and almost pulled it out with a 2-point conversion. And they stuffed us. That was a classic.
It's going to be loud. And the big key with the Clemson game is it's in the back quadrant of both schedules. And the energy is going to depend on what's going on with both teams. If both teams are undefeated or have one loss, that means they're both firmly in the playoff hunt, and that game's going to be really cranked up. Adam Dowling brought something up to me. He said Florida State, Clemson is the same night as Notre Dame, Ohio State. ESPN will be at Clemson. And the reason that makes sense to me is because it's at Notre Dame. So you have the NBC home game part of this. I could see them going to Clemson and then having it on their network. That makes all the sense in the world, although I hate it. I do.
It was at the Horseshoe, right? Because it was the opening game of the year.
Yeah.
And so they did the OSU game last year. I can see why that makes sense. Because I was pretty sure that would be at Notre Dame. I didn't see that Florida State play. Here's my question. You said that is already set in stone, because what if Florida State ends up losing 3 games to start the year?
Yeah, I don't think it's I don't think it's set in stone, but I understand the nature of this since it's a Notre Dame home game. If it was a Notre Dame away game, this discussion gets a lot more interesting. So yeah, right. I guess that does make sense.
They still will do that, though. I mean, they've come to Notre Dame Stadium several times when we've been, obviously been the home team.
Yeah, they have, but I just think it depends what else is going on around the country. So you're right, though. Florida State, Clemson, if they're both undefeated, then that'd be a big one. And a lot of people are expecting. For the USC or the USC game, maybe that's when they come. Are you a believer in Ohio State, Florida State? I mean, I read something yesterday, people pumping up Florida State, saying this is going to be the year, and it took a while, but now they're ready to go. I believe they finished out last year like on a 6-game winning streak, and they're saying this could be the year they overtake Clemson in the ACC. I don't know if I buy into Florida State that much at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I like the direction the program's going. I think we're going to be back into the the realm of top 10 status. I really do. I don't know if they're going to get back to where they dominated for years. There's too many great coaches right now in college football, I think, that are still coaching.
Yeah.
For Florida State to get to that level, but I do. That would not surprise me. I don't know that I'm ready to call it that yet. I think that they're going to have a good year. They could even beat Clemson. But I don't think that they're quite top 10. Yes, but I don't think that they're going to hit that elite level. I think that's tough these days, man. There's just too many good teams right now.
Yeah,
too many good.
Hey, can I ask you a roster question, a Notre Dame roster question that I've it's on my list of things to cover. What
you may not.
What do you? Well, too late. I'm doing it anyways. What if it looks like you're going to have the same starting linebackers you had last year that a lot of people had a lot of doubt and question about? Is that fine with you? Are you going with the flow, believing the coaches know who could be in the right place to do what we need to do? Or do you feel like it should be some blend here of more young athleticism with maybe one or two of those older guys? Or is it wait and see? I've seen a lot of people not happy hearing it looks like it's going to be those same main 3 guys.
I'm sorry. Last year was a little bit of an anomaly for me with the linebackers. That's a group that I expect to be the most improved position group. Well, other than probably wide receivers, because obviously they have nowhere to go but up.
Yeah.
And they did, don't get me wrong, but the receivers actually did. I want to give them credit. They did very well for what they had. Okay, I want to give them credit for that.
Yeah.
And we're playing pretty damn good by the end of the year. So, but still, I expect that position to be vastly improved. But I think the second on that, quarterback. let's be real about that too.
Yeah.
But on defense anyway, I think the linebackers are going to make a big jump. I can't. First of all, I feel like the coaching is good in that area. Freeman being a former linebackers coach, still, I'm sure, having his hand in the defense, Al Golden having all that experience coaching linebackers in defense, and the talent that we have. Yeah, it might be the same three guys we had starting, but I expect to see a lot more influx of young talent, and I think it's going to show through. Last year, those guys were all freshmen. And
yeah, it's like
I don't know.
you got to be able
very,
to.
very disappointed.
You've got to be there has to be functional roles for guys like Collie and Snead that are athletic. And I understand they're young and they're not always right where they need to be and all that. But like when you have those more athletic bodies and they're longer and they could cover gaps and get in, I just would like to see them find roles. And it's like, if you want to start the same guys, fine. And then if you're in these mixed packages most of the ball game, it doesn't really matter who you're calling the starter, right? At that point. But yeah.
And also, John, thanks for saying they always seem to be a split second too late. Well, it'd be almost natural to assume that this year will be that split second will be gained back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now all those times they almost made that tackle, and I think a lot more times they're going to make that tackle. I think the linebackers are going to, because we've been used to Notre Dame having really good linebacker play in the last several years. That's kind of been I'd say of all the line's been really good. I mean, no question. That it all starts at the line. But in this essentially of Notre Dame defense, it's really been the linebackers, I think, that have shined up until, the last, year or two, I'd say. I think that's going to change this year. I really do.
Yeah. And it just, there's guys you could play with there. There's more flexibility in the middle of that defense than there is on the D line as far as like guys you could rotate in. And I feel like are athletic enough or the body enough to be able to hold up. So I don't know what they're going to do then. And then with the defense, every night I'm just sitting there thinking Cross, Mills, Rubio, Anye, like these got Botello off that edge at the Vibe. These guys have to be good. They can't just be guys. They have to be dudes. I need those guys. They're going to have to step up and claim your fame and step up. But I need those four guys. I need you to be all over it this year.
Well, the one I really need to pop, and I think is going to, is Jalen Snead. I mean, he's the one that I think is quite possibly the best athlete of all of them. I mean, you can make definitely a case for Collie, but I think it's Snead, man. If that guy has a breakout year, I think the linebackers will have a breakout year.
Yeah. It's going to be really interesting, man. I don't know. Al Golden, if you tighten up a couple things, this defense could be really good. If you tighten up, getting off.
John, I am encouraged about what I'm hearing about the defensive line. I'm hearing really good things about how they're holding up, and especially when you know that they got, again, another really good returning offensive line to go against them. I'm feeling better now, maybe they got a bit of a chip on their shoulder, like, oh, they're saying we're soft. Well, we'll show them. So yeah, that would be wonderful if the defense got back to their elite status.
Yeah, I could just see. I could see two divergent paths. I could see one path where Notre Dame tightens it up. They do a better job getting off the field on third downs. The defense in the red zone is tighter and whatever. And we don't see some of the big gash mistake plays we had a bunch of last year, which are uncharacteristic of recent Notre Dame defenses. Like I could see a path where it tightens up and it looks better. I could also see a path where we start getting ran on up the middle a little bit, and then that causes problems everywhere, a ripple effect. And then you're in a spot where you got to outscore teams half the weeks of the year to win. I can honestly see both happening. And it's just going to depend on how stout up front we could be, in my opinion.
Well, and also, and on that subject, going to Hartman, and some of the, parent struggles he's having, I'm really not all that worried about it. And I keep hearing that. And I'm like, oh, he's having all these struggles. So does that mean Buckner is the leader? I mean, no one's really saying that, though. So I'm wondering, is he doing so bad that he's number two? Or is he just struggling because they're throwing new things at him to not only help the offense and to challenge themselves of what they could do this year, but also to help Hartman in his ascension to NFL, draft status. I'm wondering if that has a lot to do with this. This guy's a sixth-year dude. I'm telling you, this is you talk about being in a position of strength, where we're so used to being in a position of weakness at that position. I mean, this guy should have probably gone off to the NFL if you really, all things considered. And I think with all the hype he got, had the draft come and if he was eligible for it, let's just say, everything changed and he could just decide on a whim, I'm going to the NFL now, I'm going to do it now. I think the stock would go up just from all the hype that was put on him and all the focus, and then seeing what he could do. Him having a 6th year, man, I'm really thinking this could be one of those years where he ends up in New York at the end of the year for, the hype. Not to say winning it, but I could see him being.
And see, if that happened, it'd be good for him personally, obviously. Number 2 is it means Notre Dame probably has a very successful year. But number 3 on a practical level is if that scenario happens that you're talking about, it means Notre Dame has a lot of wide receivers that are very good. Because I don't think you get there as a quarterback anymore without having good guys to throw to. That would mean that wide receiver group has really taken off. All the veterans get better, and a couple young guys contribute. Maybe it's Greathouse and Flores, and they contribute. And then that means the tight ends are doing their part. You just built a beautiful scenario.
On that note, we talked about the X factor, in my opinion, being Jalen Snead on defense. The X factor to me on offense is Chris Tyree at the slot position.
I knew you were going to say that. Yep.
I mean, I think that could,
secret
I've been
weapon
looking for that for a couple of years now.
Yep. I love that. That is your secret little weapon. You know what I see him doing, man? God, you're always in my brain. It's not good for you. You need to reconsider because
here's the thing. He's playing the position, and I realize it's different than what it was back in the late 80s and and whatnot. But he's basically playing Rocket's position. That was really kind of the flanker position, was kind of a slot back, even though it was used a little bit differently, which I think fits his skill set so much better than him just being a straight running back.
You know what I want him to do? Here's what I want him to do. You know where I see him burning teams this year? We got the running game going. Hartman's reaching, Merriweather on the outside and all that. I want to see them draw up some clever little slip screens to Tyree with just one block out in front of him, and you get him the ball moving in space, and that is where Tyree excels. That is where he is best. Not running north-south where I want Estime to have those carries in traffic. That's not his game. This could be a very deadly weapon for Notre Dame if they use him right. Slip screen, sneaky little stuff. You could sneak him behind. You could do a lot of stuff there. Secret weapon. I love it.
It also makes me wonder if that might have been in the cards last year for him, but when Price got hurt, they realized they didn't have, and also Estime was hurt to start the year. Or was it Diggs? I always forget which one it was.
Yeah, it was Diggs, but that's something we asked.
They had to have him.
But we all asked this because we even figured last year that the running back room was going to be pretty solid. And we all had those discussions of saying, should you move him there? Because you need a body there that knows what's going on, and we feel good at running back. So it was a question last year. This move only makes sense, though, if you're going to use him. He could be a secret weapon. Use him. Build him out his own route tree of sneaky little slip screens or whatever else you want to do. Get him behind the defense, whatever. But secret weapon, and I love it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man.
What about J.D. Price? Where does J.D. Price fit in? Did you see the picture of him yesterday? Did you see the picture of J.D. Price? The dude is ripped. He looks like a 28-year-old. He looks absolutely fantastic. Where does he come in? Where does he come in?
Think about him and Estime in the backfield at the same time.
Man.
I think you're going to see a lot more two-back sets this year, too, man, where you see two running backs in the backfield as opposed to one. No, they're going to probably be creative and, put some out on the slot, like with Tyree, for instance, and that kind of thing. But, yeah, man, I keep looking at this team. I think we're just so used to the offense not being absolutely terrible by any means, but just not being what the potential could be. And this is the one year where they got so many pieces they can fit and move around, and even the receiver core, while it's still young, there's still, there's a lot of bodies there now they can throw around. I think the tight end group's another group that could have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. And I think Mitchell Evans is going to be a great tight end. I really do. You know, coming out from Michael Merrier might give him just a little bit extra. Again, going back to that chip on the shoulder thing, maybe just wanting to prove himself.
And you know what else too, man? You know what else there is? There is a unique pressure becoming the next Notre Dame main target tight end. There is a unique pressure there because of the lineage of all the good ones that have come recently and gone on to the NFL and all that. Komet and Eifert and Rudolph and all these guys and whatever. And you have all that. It's a unique kind of like ascension and pressure to go, I am the next one. It is my time. And there's a standard that comes with that. And I could see guys getting some juice off that, being like, it's Notre Dame tight end. It's my time to shine and go all out. I think they have multiple tight ends that could be really good at doing different things. I'm not really worried about that. So I don't know, man. It's going to be really interesting how this all comes together. And here's another question for you. How much different is this offense going to look with Parker and with the wide receivers being more capable and with a quarterback that's more capable to make more throws? I've been wondering that late at night too, laying there going, I just wonder how different the offense is going to look.
It's going to look a lot different, man, once we get to about game 3 or 4. But I just think those first couple of weeks of the year, it's going to be a lot of trial and error, overthrown balls, underthrown balls. Maybe things aren't quite as in sync with the offensive line yet. But I do think at some point, probably game 3, I can't see it taking that long with the offense. I just can't with the experience and the talent on that side. But I also don't think it's going to start off like a house of fire like we're all expecting. We're going to play Navy first. You know what I mean? It's going to be a different kind of game playing them. And then I'm glad we're getting that out of the way, though. I'm totally glad we're getting that out of the way. And then, what is it? It's the East Tennessee game right after that? East Tennessee State?
Yeah, Navy, Tennessee State, NC State, right. And then Central. What is it? Central Michigan?
Yeah, and I'm not, look, we only have 1 year of to go by on Marcus Freeman and, his tendencies per se, but certainly playing on the road, with the minor exception of USC, but again, they didn't get blown out that day. They looked pretty good on the road last year. So I'm not really worried about that NC State game, actually. I think it comes at a good time. I think that's when things are going to start popping, actually.
Yeah, you can make that argument.
Things come together.
And you know what else, too? You build yourself a little.
I'm actually more worried about Central Michigan, John, to be honest. I'm more worried about that game. I think that could be like the Marshall game last year, but we win it this year. But it's one of those where we don't look good at all game long. That's the one that worries me.
Here's what I would like to see happen. Specifically offensively, here's my ideal path. You do what you're going to do against Navy, and then that's kind of a weird dynamic anyways, just because of all the Navy-ness. Then you do Tennessee State, and then by that time, you should have 2 weeks of being pretty good at offense and putting up a lot of points. And if you don't, we're having a whole different discussion. But if you can't move the ball and score a lot of points against Navy and Tennessee State, what is life? Like, what is the point of living at that point? That, I hope, should build some excitement and momentum into NC State, where that, I hope, is the week you see it all come together. You have 2 weeks of working it out against smaller bodied teams. You should be able to dictate what you want to do. That NC State game's the one to let it fly then. You got a couple weeks to fine-tune it. Then you do that one. Then you kick the brakes off CMU, and you're shining, sitting pretty for Ohio State. That's my roadmap. Let's go, baby.
I know it sounds weird for me to say this, but I actually kind of hope they struggle a little bit against Central Michigan, John, because I know that everybody's then going to be saying, Ohio State's going to kill Notre Dame next week, because it's like, I do expect them to play well. I don't know why. I just feel like after all these years of seeing them play and just kind of figuring out Notre Dame, I just feel like it's not going to be the, fireworks we're all expecting those first couple of weeks, but they'll be good enough. I think NC State are going to play really well. Then I think they're going to play really down to Central Michigan, but win, probably end up winning by 13 points.
The Brian Kelly
like
plan.
That.
That's the Brian Kelly plan.
Yeah, the Brian Kelly plan.
There's
but
always
I think they're going to play.
There's always one of those at home that makes you want to pull your hair out, and then you end up winning it. Like what was it? Ball State was one of those at home. Toledo's one of those at home. Like,
John, why do you think I'm bald?
Come on, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's wild, man. Great call today. Really good to catch up with you. Looking forward to seeing you in person at the Blue and Gold tailgate. That should be a really fun day. I'm going to get there early and set up, and we're going to settle in and have a good day. Anything else on the way out, my friend? Good call today.
Oh, not at all, man. I'm looking forward to April 22nd for sure.
Beautiful. We'll be in touch, man. Have an enjoyable weekend. Happy Easter, all right?
Happy Easter. Good Friday. All that. Have
a good one, man. We'll see you. Oh, what a nice guy. He thinks about Notre Dame a lot. Okay, a couple of these chats I wanted to address. Adam says, and by the way, Adam, we might be employing your truck and grill for the tailgate. You offer that, and I might take it up on you. I might need you to pull that big old pickup truck you have and put a dang grill on the back so we can cook out a little bit at the tailgate. I have no problem getting a lot of the food, but it's just the grill ain't gonna happen coming from where I'm coming from with the SUV full of stuff. Adam says, Drake Bowen opening some eyes. Here's the thing about Drake Bowen, and I'm going to tell you this right now. Drake Bowen is a future captain of what the Notre Dame football team, specifically defensively, is going to look like very soon at Notre Dame the next couple years. Drake Bowen is one of those guys where if you've been around Notre Dame a lot or college players a lot or have a feel or a vibe for different guy, that's a leader. He's a leader. He's a dirty dog leader, willing to get in there, do all it takes. He produces even when he's injured, he produces. He is the leader of his unit and of his group. He's a more local guy. All of that adds in to tell me I am supremely excited about what Drake Bowen's going to be. He is going to be one of the captains of this team within a couple years. Like, book it. Book it. That guy has the personality. He's going to be in charge of setting up that defense. It can't be now. He's too young. You have to build up that credibility. But that is a future leader of this program, 100%, and I love it. And, it's like all the, you know what probably happened to Drake? Drake probably got a bad deal because all Notre Dame people, including me, were talking about another Bowen that it turns out didn't even want to be here. So that's kind of bad luck on the hype because all the Bowen hype went to the one who didn't want to be here in the end. So, future leader. And I always say this, when Notre Dame leadership comes up or we're talking about captaincy and all that, I always say this. You are not a leader if they call you a captain and you're not out there playing great football. You're not leading shit when you're doing that. You're not a leader. So that's not a captain to me. I see too many Notre Dame captains that aren't making plays on Saturday in the biggest games. You're not a captain anything except a sinking ship. If you're the captain, make winning plays. That's a pet peeve of mine. Calling a guy a captain, and I see him out there getting worked over every week in the biggest games. You ain't a captain of nothing but a sinking ship. Captain means you're making winning plays on the field and you're an emotional, motivating leader everywhere else. That's a captain. You ain't no captain, and other guys know that too. Other guys know. There's been times where guys are called a captain, but everybody around knows. They're like, this guy isn't even making any plays. He's called a captain because he's been here 5 years. It's got to be both. You have to have the leadership part, and you need to make plays. I remember being on teams where they would name a guy a captain, and I would roll my eyes and be like, no, this dude isn't the captain of anything. He's not even good. Just because he's been around doesn't make you a captain. Not everybody is built to be a captain. Hook. Captain Hook was a good movie. I liked that movie when I was like, that came out when I was like a tiny little kid. The movie Hook with Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman playing a hook. I ain't gonna lie, man. Dustin Hoffman played a awesome Hook. The black wig, the whole red thing, the hook. I love Dustin Hoffman played a good Hook. I do. I like that. But I'm just saying, Rufio. The captain, to me, it's motivational and it has to be performance. Drake Bowen's going to be that guy. He's going to be that guy. And I love having a defensive captain in the middle. And I like that it's going to be a linebacker. You are kind of literally in the middle of these layers of defense, and you got the secondary behind you. You have the D front in front of you. And you're able to be there and kind of navigate and feel your way through it and position guys here and there and be out there calling everything. He's going to be a leader, and I'm very excited for that time period. I had something else I wanted to cover. What was it? Here we go. All this worry about me and what's going to happen. And BVG should be coach says, can we just enjoy summer first? Like, God, man, go for it. I want us all to. I want us all to, because once August comes around, it's just stress nonstop with this Notre Dame stuff when you're the way we are. And you're all the way I am, or you wouldn't be sitting here on a Friday morning at 10:30, 6 months before the season, worrying about all this. It's amazing. I love you guys for it, too. I love you guys for it. And it's like, yeah, look at this. Drunk Vigo. Johnny's going to be stressed out all summer, bro. Yeah. You know what doesn't help my stress level in the damn summer? One, worrying about Notre Dame when I know I'm not going to get any immediate answers. That just causes me nothing but anxiety. And then number two, it's like, John, it's the summer. Just relax. Get your mind away from all the football worries for a little bit. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll turn on my favorite local baseball team. That doesn't help the stress level. The White Sox exist for me to bleed out slowly from 162 individual stab wounds. Unbelievable. Would you give up 16 runs yesterday at home? What are you doing? There is going to be just admit it, guy. I'm never going to be calm. Give it up. I've given it up. Just give it up. You can try. I'm never going to be calm. Look at this. Mike, 3883. John likes Ohio State. He's just so jealous of the team spirit, the atmosphere, the passion. No wine and cheese crowd here. Yeah, I think they're more 40 natty lights while driving to the game from the... I know it's a small sample size. From all the Ohio State diehards I personally know as friends, it ain't no wine and cheese. It's more like, can we down this entire Busch Light case while driving to the game before we get to the tailgate? Like, that's the dynamic I know of from my Ohio State friends. The people I know in that state, that's their deal. Can we get this whole case down on the drive before we tailgate? Like, that's what I'm working with. Yeah, I'm jealous of the atmosphere and the fancy name. Get out of here. Mike, I know you did that just to get my blood pressure cranked. Look at you. Look at you. Andrew Gilmore. Why dog a kid for getting NIL? You should be asking why ND is so cheap. Do you take less money at work? I mean, it's just supremely frustrating. It really is just supremely frustrating because the big problem is sometimes the struggle is getting these top players interested in Notre Dame and Notre Dame's mission and everything we have going on. That has not seemed to be a problem for Freeman. Freeman seems to be able to have some of these top guys very interested in Notre Dame and bought in and all that. With his renewed energy and the modern messaging of Notre Dame's values, but with the modern spin and all that vibe, He's been able to get a lot of top-end guys and their families really interested in Notre Dame for a long time. Some of them committed for like 6 months or whatever, and then the money. Steven, don't do this to me. The Giants hit another one. You know, but Jock Peterson bothers me. Just looking at Jock Peterson makes me mad. Get him out of my town. Get him out of my town. He's been pissing me off all the last couple days. Anyways, I can't let the White Sox kill me. It's 162. I mean, I just can't every single day. I got to divest somehow. I want to love them, but they don't ever love me back. So yeah, that's the frustration is Notre Dame's gotten a lot of those guys very interested. It's just as much as I like Notre Dame and I'm interested in that, I'm also interested in $3 million to do nothing different than what I was going to do anyway, but just at a different state. Think about it, man. That's what pay-for-play NIL is. It's like, I love Notre Dame and all this and all that. You could put in the exact same work somewhere else and make 2 or 3 million doing it. Like, it's hard to turn down. It's hard to turn down, folks. Oh, my gosh. Andrew, why is NIL up front not an ND value? The answer to that, Jack has told you. That's a very good question, Andrew. Jack believes that is not the spirit of NIL. And he said that when they did that media tour the last couple weeks or whatever, where Jack and John were in not the sports news, like national CBS nightly news stuff. That's why. Because they're going to say that is not in the spirit of Notre Dame's values. They want you to come in, prove your worth, prove you're going to be a good citizen, do all that stuff in the right standing. Then they find a way to open up opportunities and finances to you. That is the spirit and letter of the law of NIL. Michigan operates very similarly. You all know how I feel about Michigan, but they operate the same way and have had some of those struggles trying to do NIL the right way down the road a year or two when you're in the program. Jack just believes that that's not the spirit of NIL, and it really isn't. It's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a struggle. That is my number one. It is my number one big picture worry with Freeman right now is how are we not hostages the night before every single signing day forever if we're not willing to play the NIL game the other way people are bending it? Our best comeback is, don't you want to go to school here? Remember what you liked? 40 over 4. That's our comeback. And then you just have to hope some of these guys stick with that and that they value it that much. Their families value it that much, or they're that much in love with Freeman or Notre Dame that they're willing to forsake that money up front to do this. It's a big ask for these top guys that are being wined and dined, 69, everything else you can name is what they're getting. And here we are saying, go to school. It'll be good for you. It's just a tough sell. It's a tough sell. It's just a tough ask. These guys are 18-year-old guys, the best players in their high school. They're used to getting all the attention, probably all the ladies, like all the stuff an 18-year-old alpha athlete guy would think about. And on these recruiting deals, they're wined, dined, 69, and then a big briefcase of money. It's a good deal if you could get it. It's a good deal if you could get it, baby. I'm just saying. It's a good deal if you could get it. I've heard some stories, man. I know some people from my hometown significantly older than me that went on recruiting trips like early, mid-2000s. Some of the stories they tell are unbelievable. It's just, here's your recruiting visit. You open a dorm room and there's topless women everywhere. But it's hard for an 18-year-old kid to not go, yeah, I'm going to go there. This is awesome. That's literally how it was even in the 2000s. They would have it set up with local girls. And it'd go, here's a party for you. Let us know how it goes tomorrow. You walk in, there's alcohol everywhere, topless women everywhere. Like, it takes a pretty mature 18-year-old to go, no, like, that's not what's best for me. Going somewhere for school, like, I don't need that. I'm just telling you how wild it is. The temptations that are out there for these guys. Like, sometimes I don't know if Notre Dame people realize or want to realize just how far some of this stuff goes behind the scenes with what's promised, and the money and the cars and the jobs and the houses and the women and the jewelry, just the cash, all of it, man, all of it. And it's easy to say, us sitting there, oh, Notre Dame's better than that, and 40/4 and all that stuff. Like, dude, it makes sense to us because we're Notre Dame lunatics. That's the other part of this, you guys. That's the other part of this you got to think about. We love Notre Dame. Our default setting when we wake up in the morning is loving Notre Dame with all of our hearts and all those values and all of that. We got to understand the coaches that come into Notre Dame, and most of the coaches, not all, most of the coaches and most of the players don't have that innate sense of loyalty to Notre Dame from birth the way I feel like I have. Most people don't have that, man. So you really got to sell that value because they're not from families that are just going Notre Dame no matter what and are all bought in. You got to win that. And it's hard. It's just hard. Yeah, it's just tough. So I don't know. Oh boy. Drunk Vigo. Look, Drunk Vigo loves Notre Dame. He's here every day and he's going, dang, I'll take the NIL money and the girls. I'm just telling you what's out there, man. I'm just telling you, not an internet story. People I know that were being recruited have had some of these experiences. The other one I always tell is one of them, big old lineman, early 2000s, went to be recruited somewhere, and the coach literally told him, pick a major out of these 3 or 4, and then we have everything in structure, and all you got to do is show up on graduation, you have that degree. They literally told the guy, you're here to play football. The only book you need is the playbook. Here's a handful of majors. Pick which one you want. We have a program set up. It's all in place. You'll get that degree at the end of it. Don't worry about anything else. Don't ask no questions. Just know we all got it covered. The administration knows what's going on. Football, we all work together. You're here for football. That stuff's been going on forever. I just don't think Notre Dame fans think it's that extreme sometimes, and it is. And you need to know it is. You need to know what you're going up against to be able to go up against it and beat it. You do. You do. What is this? Texas A&M spent $30 million. How did that work for them? Players transferred, smoked dope in the locker room, and they were a terrible distraction. If Freeman wins, the players will come. Then the money will come. Jimbo's learning the hard way. I mean, you can overdo it with this. I am not saying an absolute free-for-all is the best way to do it. Jimbo and A&M thought this was a shortcut with oil money, and it burned them. There's a line there, man. You do too much of this, then you start having ego problems. Too many guys think they're not getting as much money as the other guy. They recruited half of them 5-stars are like in the same positions. The guys that aren't going to start are going to want to leave. And then the collective isn't going to want to pay them if they haven't already. Like you got a lot of stuff there. So you could do too much on that as well. To where it could blow up on you. And I think Jimbo's learning that. I do think there might be some natural calibration level at some point with NIL where it'll balance out, where there's going to be some tough lessons learned and people will chill out a little bit on it. So I don't know. But the other part of this is if Freeman wins, the players will come. Then the money will come. But now you're getting into a chicken and the egg. You're saying if Freeman wins, the players will come. Well, what if I said to you, you need the better players for Freeman to win? Now you're in the classic chicken or the egg. Which comes first? I agree if Freeman wins, the players will come. But you also need really good players to win big, so more good players come. See, that's where Notre Dame's gotten tripped up in the last handful of years of the Kelly era. This is exactly where Notre Dame got stuck at. They were right in between both. Notre Dame was winning a lot under Kelly, but not winning anything elite enough that it moves the needle. So you weren't getting the elite wins that move the needle and get more talent. And then on the other end, he wasn't recruiting elitely to be in the position to do that. So being in the middle there, you're dead. You're treading water in the middle, heading in no direction at that point. So that's where you get into a chicken or the egg. I think you need good players to get good results, and you need good results to get good players. You just can't float around in the middle. The talent's building. I hope you're right. And Steven, you say the talent's building. And I agree with you. But you know what would be better to be building? Having Keon Keeley in the building. Having the other Bowen in the building. Having a 5-star quarterback that was allegedly a silent commit to us in the building. Like, you want to talk about building, that's your quickest path to build. Because all three of them be starting right now. Think about how different you feel about the defensive line if Keon Keeley's released as a freshman over there. Think about how better you feel at safety if you had Bowen back there right away. So it's just kind of rough. But I always struggle philosophically and intellectually with that chicken or the egg. Like, you got to find a way to swim to one of these islands, either the talent island or win games that move the needle island. You got to get one or the other going. And I thought last year was an indication that the recruiting thing we were going to lean more towards getting that big talent in, and it fell apart at the end. It's very frustrating. Very frustrating. I've been hearing good things about Minich. Go Deep says Minich will be that dude. There are a lot of folks who've said Minich has been very, very underappreciated, under-recruited. And a lot of people are saying he played along a 5-star in high school, and he looked better than him most of the year. So a lot of people think Minich is a dude, and that Notre Dame got a steal there. And it's a darn good thing, because that's a position where we need some help. So I'm interested to see how early he could contribute and in exactly what ways. All right, folks, that's going to be it. We went an hour and a half. I got some things to do, and then I'm watching the Masters. I'll be honest. We didn't even really get into my best case, worst case scenario. And it isn't so much about record. It's about how we get there. Like, what has to go right or wrong to get to the record. So when I say best case, worst case, it isn't going to just be, give me a number. I'm going to look at exactly why we would get to the worst case and the best case. So I don't know. Yeah, Minich has Tranquil vibes. That kind of makes sense. Knowing where to be. Tranquil had that skill of just kind of knowing right where you need to be. And I love that. Love that 100%. All right, Adam, you got nothing to do. I want to pay attention to Masters. That counts as something to do. All right, everybody have a good weekend. We have the holiday, and then I'm sure we'll go live after that. I'm still going to put some stuff out over the weekend. I know people have family stuff going on or whatever. Check it when you can. Thanks for being here. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for calling. I appreciate it all. Good Friday. Happy Friday. See ya.